there's more evidence to prove that the president attempted to bribe or extort Ukraine with the threat of withholding vital military assistance to a strategic partner and ally, which is what Ukraine is, then there is evidence to support the idea that the sun will come up in the east tomorrow. Period.
The facts are on the president's side. The truth is on his side. Those 4 facts will not change, have not changed, will never change. And, that'll obviously be something we talk about tomorrow.
Welcome back. That was some of the latest today from members of Congress who will be participating in the first public impeachment hearings tomorrow. Joining me now is Texas Democratic Congressman Joaquin Castro, who will also be participating tomorrow. He's a member of the House Intelligence Committee, and he just met with Democratic leadership ahead of tomorrow's opening round of hearings. Congressman Castro, welcome back to the show. Let me start with the Republican talking points where I feel as if they're hanging their hat on one piece of evidence you don't have yet, which is evidence that the president directed the aid to be withheld. It is concurrent, and they're playing all these little semantics, and I get that, and you're going to, be able to make some circumstantial claims. But how important do you think it will be for you to find out how specifically OMB was directed to halt this aid?
Obviously, we're going to try to bring all the facts out. That's the purpose of bringing these witnesses in front of the American people so that the American people can hear the evidence for themselves. But I think as soon as we got that transcript and then the witnesses who affirmed the fact that the president asked the Ukrainian president for a favor, the president of the United States committed extortion. He was trying to get the Ukrainian president to take out a political rival, Joe Biden, in exchange for military aid and in exchange for a meeting. And Chuck, that the Ukraine is deathly afraid of Russia. They're deathly afraid of Vladimir Putin. Mm-hmm. So they're going to do anything they can to make sure that their relationship with the United States, no matter who the president is safe and secure. That's why it was so shocking that the president would do that.
I know that there's been and I've seen it in print, keep it simple, stupid, that is the mantra of how you guys want to go about these hearings. Narrow the focus. And I know some of your colleagues, Terry Sewell, said to me, Ukraine needs to be the focus. She doesn't want to see impeachment articles expanded to include the obstruction from Mueller and all of that. But is there a danger of not going down certain breadcrumb trails that your own witnesses are leading you to? I mean, George Kent testifying to the fact that Putin and Orban essentially planted the seeds of corruption in Ukraine with the president. Doesn't that mean you guys need to see those transcripts?
Well, and ultimately it could mean exactly that. But I think the focus of this investigation was determined for us when the whistleblower came forward with information about a specific exchange and information about the president, Donald Trump, and the Ukrainian president. And that's why the scope of this investigation has been about that. But yes, should we follow up on things that may be criminal or may be malfeasance? The answer is yes, and I think that ultimately we probably will.
Are you concerned? You said something interesting when you called for opening an impeachment inquiry in May of 19, before we knew about what was happening in Ukraine. It was actually turned out it was taking place at that time, but we didn't know it. But you said the following: it's time for Congress to open an impeachment inquiry. You acknowledge the following: there's political risk in doing so, but there is a greater risk to our country in doing nothing. This is a fight for a democracy. Let me ask it this way. Are you concerned that the inquiry, that you almost are going to make it too narrow, and that it's so narrow we don't know the extent with which, how much, frankly, Russia's influence had both on the Syria policy and the Ukraine policy and our back and forth with Turkey? I mean, in some ways, it's all more of it's connected than not.
Yeah, look, I think all of us wish that you could take on everything at once. But what we've taken on in this investigation related to Donald Trump and the Ukraine is sizable in itself. And you've seen that we've been calling a lot of witnesses. We're going to bring a lot of witnesses in front of the American people. And also, I think people feel that the evidence that we have related to this incident amounts to impeachable offenses for the president of the United States, that even putting the other stuff aside that you've described, which of course seems problematic, but what we're investigating right now amounts to impeachable offenses for Donald Trump.
Very quickly, next week, any reason we don't know if you guys are holding hearings next week? Do we know this? Will we know for sure now that you will, or what's the holdup?
Yeah, those are some of the discussions that we're having in the committee right now.
There's no decision. Is it possible you'd have no hearings next week in the public?
It's possible. I mean, it's possible, but I would think that we probably will. Sure.
Let me ask you about DACA in this respect. I know what you ultimately want to see happen for these DACA recipients. But what do you hope is the right call here constitutionally? I feel like people are so concerned about the policy impact that they're not thinking about the larger. What do you believe is better going forward if the Supreme Court decides the executive branch has this authority or doesn't?
Well, the case, as you mentioned, centers mostly around how the administration went about terminating the DACA program and
right.
whether the Supreme Court has the ability to review that and how it was done. And so, yeah, I think the Trump administration basically went about it the wrong way and didn't go through the process, all of the steps that you're supposed to administratively. So if you ask the constitutional question, it's important that administrative process be carried out. That whether it's the Obama administration or the Trump administration, that there is an administrative process that you're supposed to go through, and this administration didn't do that. And so because of that, I hope that the court will uphold DACA.
What does that mean? Uphold the decision that was made, but then say, okay, those folks are grandfathered in, but going forward, it cannot be constitutional. Are you hoping for some sort of remedy that way?
Well, what I'm hoping they'll say is that the rescission by the Trump administration cannot take effect, was illegal because of the way they did it administratively, so the program would then continue. I mean, look, Chuck, ultimately, as you know, ultimately the Congress has to step up. Right.
Yeah.
The Congress has to step up. We came close a few years ago when the Senate passed comprehensive immigration reform, which would have put these dreamers on a path to citizenship. And John Boehner, because of the Hastert rule, refused to put it on the floor for a vote in the House, even though there were about 230 members of Congress who would have probably voted for it. And then I think he refused to put it on the floor for a vote because he was scared of losing his speakership. And then he resigned the next year from his speakership. So the Congress has to step up and do this as well.
Congressman Joaquin Castro, Democrat from Texas. A lot of people are going to be seeing you tomorrow. We'll all be watching. Thanks for coming on and sharing your views with us this evening.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Hello, YouTubers. If you're watching this, it means you've checked out our channel, so thank you. Now do me a favor. Subscribe by clicking on that button down there. Click on any of the videos to watch the latest interviews and highlights from MTP Daily and MSNBC. You can get more Beat the Press content every morning in the First Read newsletter. If you're tired of content that you don't know anything about where it came from, you don't have to have that problem with us. NBC News, MSNBC, MTP, and the Meet the Press mindset right here for you on YouTube. Subscribe now.